Hey folks, this is Dr. Grimes, and I'm going to take a few minutes here at the beginning of the semester to talk through the syllabus so that you'll know exactly what my expectations are, and you'll have a very, very clear understanding of what you've got to do well in this class. So over the next maybe 20 or 30 minutes, the way that I ramble, it'll probably take that long. Let's go through the syllabus and talk about some things. I would encourage you, before we go any farther, to pause this video and print a copy of the syllabus so that you can make some notes on it while we are talking. And then as you watch the video and you make your notes, maybe periodically glance down and see what the time is on the timer. That's always important. It doesn't usually come into play, but it's important because later on in the semester, if I do something different than what I explained in this syllabus, you can go back to your syllabus where the times are put in the left-hand margin perhaps and say, now Dr. Grimes, at about the 22-minute mark on your video, you said this. And then I can go, oh, you know what, you're right, I did. So make good notes to help clarify your understanding. Keep up with the time of the video so that you can come back to it later if I do something differently than what I say on this video. And this serves as a fixed reference point for both of us. We can come back and say, what were the expectations at the beginning of the semester? And are we meeting those expectations? So I'll pause here for just a second and let you print that syllabus. Okay, hopefully you have paused the video here and printed the syllabus. Let's start through this. This is human resource staffing, HR staffing. Up until a few semesters ago, this was called Advanced Human Resources. So if your curriculum sheet says Advanced HR, it's the same thing as this. It's still Management 4670. And as I record this, this is actually summer semester, the last time that it will be Management 4670. Over the course of a couple of semesters, we've changed the name, a little bit of the content, and starting in fall of 2008, it'll be HRMT 4670 instead of Management 4670. Still the same course. Here is my information, my name, my cell phone number, where I can be found on campus. Please feel free all semester to shoot me a text. Just remember that you're not in my contact list on my phone, so you'll have to tell me who you are. If you have multiple classes with me, and especially early in the semester, you'll have to tell me what class you're talking about. Generally, the text messages I can respond to fairly quickly. Emails that you send to Radar, as you see here in a Radar, come straight to my phone, and I can reply on in the evenings, on the weekends, whatever. Let's see, course description. Basically what this is going to be trying to get you to understand throughout the course of the semester is how to go about finding the right people for your jobs and how to interview them in such a way that you can make a real clear decision on which of your candidates is the best one to hire with a better degree of certainty that they're going to work out long term. So let's look at the course learning outcomes. First thing that you're going to want to do is know how to look at a job description and see what the job entails. What do you have to do to be considered for this job? What are you going to have to do once you get this job? And what you'll actually do in the first half of the semester is to take a job from a list that I'll provide to you, entry-level kinds of jobs that college students could do, and research and create a job description. Being able to create a job description that is pretty comprehensive, that talks about all of the things that you'll have to do on the job, talks about the environment in which you will be working, and then talks about what kinds of things you need in your background to succeed, is going to be a huge part of your success in this class. And this is a great class both for HR majors and management majors. If you're HR, you're going to have to do these things all the time. You're going to create job descriptions. You're going to be the initial interviewer for people. But even if you're a management major, where this is not a required class, it's an amazing business elective because as a manager, you will hire people. And knowing how to interview them will work well for you and make you a successful manager. Second objective is really more for the HR people. But it could apply to the management people as well. These days, you can't rely on people to come find you. You've got to go find them. So when you know that you've got this job title that's open that you're about to interview for, instead of just putting it out there on a job board or something and seeing who shows up, these days more and more you've got to go find people and convince them to come and interview. So knowing where you're going to go to recruit them is important. What sources are you going to use to make people aware that this job is open and that you're hiring? So depending on the job that you get, you're going to think through a list of potential places that you or resources that you can use to make people aware of this job. And you're going to prepare for me a little memo, page or two, that lists some sources that you would recommend that we use. More details come as we get to that point of the curriculum, the semester. Third thing is that you're going to prepare to interview business communications students from GSW for this particular job by creating a series of questions that you would use in your interview. The goal for the interviews, we'll talk about a little bit later in this video, are going to be about hopefully 40 to 45 minutes with a bare minimum of 30. And in order to get the information you need to see if they're good fits for this job and for this organization, and to make the interview last that long, is that you're going to have a good series of questions, maybe 10 or 12 or 15 questions that you're going to ask them and get them to elaborate. Creating those open-ended, behavior-based interview questions, situational-based interview questions, we'll learn about the difference later on, will help you to conduct a good interview. Number 4, you're going to create a tool that you can use to make notes and to score them, so that when you put 4 candidates or 5 candidates side by side, you've got documentation on who was better at certain things, and that way you can kind of compare them after the fact. We're going to call that a hiring matrix. I like this part of the class, although it may not be something that you do in real life, because in real life you don't have the time to create customized hiring matrices or matrices in order to interview your candidates. But it's a good practice in this class to get you thinking about what's important. What am I looking for? If these things are important and my candidate has 4 out of 5, is that good? Depends on which one is missing, because some things are more important than the others. And the hiring matrix gets you to go through the process of consciously looking at what they need to do, what skills and abilities and knowledges they need to have, and assessing where they are compared to each other and where they are compared to the ideal, so that you can later make a decision. And then number 5, actually do some interviews. The way that the summer 18 structure is going to be, as of the time that I record this video, there's 15 of you in this class, and there are like 28 in the business communications class. Each one of you will have your own job, and ideally each one of you will interview 4 people. That's 15 jobs times 4 people is 60 interviews. Since there are 28 of the business communications students, we're going to ask them to pick 2 of these jobs, and they'll get to interview with 2 of you. That comes out to 56, so a couple of you will only have 3 interviews. But you'll have the opportunity to interview either 3 or 4 people using the same questions and the same hiring matrix, and then make a decision as to which one of those 3 or 4 people you would hire for this particular job. Great project. Good experience for them, creating a resume, creating a cover letter, and going through the interview process. Many times we hear from those business communication students, this is the first time I've ever really done an interview, and it was a really good learning process. I know how to do it next time when I do it in real life. It's also a great project for you, because you will be interviewing people. You will be creating the questions and assessing candidates, and you're going to get to do that 3 or 4 times. The first time may not go real smoothly, but hopefully you'll learn something from that, and the second will be better, and the third will be better, and by the 4th one you'll go, I wish I had 2 more, because I'm doing this really well. It's flowing, it's natural. And then number 6 learning outcome is the ability to communicate effectively with them. As they express an interest, you're going to have to begin a communication process with them to talk to them about what you need from them and when we're going to meet and how we're going to do this video conference kind of thing. And then to communicate afterwards when the interview is over, who did you select and who did you not. Great outcomes, I think. It's a very well designed class that has kind of evolved over the course of time to what it is today. But most students, when they look at this, go, man, that's a lot of work, especially in the summer, because it's such a short period of time to get it done in. But when it's over, they're on the backside looking back at this, they're thinking, man, that was a great experience. I can really use that in my real life roles as HR or as management. From the perspective of the class, there is a textbook. This is it right here. It's a thin little thing. It's very easy to carry around. Unfortunately, it's monstrously expensive. It's probably going to cost you $150, and I apologize to you. We have wanted for some time to find something cheaper, and there's just not anything that we've been able to find. And unfortunately, the way that the roles go in faculty settings, we're on so many committees and doing so many special things that we just don't have time to create our own textbooks. That's on my long-term goal, but unfortunately for summer semester, you're going to end up having to buy a pretty expensive textbook. There is not a new edition of this, so you ought to be able to find used ones. And the good news is that you can sell it to folks in the fall, because there will be folks taking this class in the fall as well. You will also have to have a bundle of 3 ProctorU test codes, because there are 3 exams in this class. They're multiple choice and true false. Beyond that, it is so very, very important that you have a good internet connection, that you got a stable bandwidth, that your internet provider is strong, because you're going to do some video interviews. You got to be able to get on a video call and make it last for 45 minutes. And if your connection is spotty, if your technology is not good, if you don't have a good camera, if you don't have good earphones or whatever, you're not going to be able to get these interviews done, and that's going to impact your grade in the class. So make sure that you come down here and you test out all of this stuff. For attendance purposes, there's an introductory quiz where I get you to tell me your alternate email address, a Bell South, a Yahoo, a Gmail, whatever, so that I can contact you if something happens in the class and maybe you're not looking at Radar or you're not logging into class regularly. I've got something like a Yahoo to go to try to get in touch with you. And I'm also going to ask you for your cell phone. Again, if there's a problem, if you're not logged in for a week or something, or you're missing an assignment and I can't get in touch with you through the course or through Radar, I've got a cell phone that I can text you or send you a message. There's also a hello discussion. It's just a quick discussion board where I want you to tell me a little bit about yourself so that the folks who are in the class with you will know a little bit about you. You've got to do both of those things by June the 5th at 11:30 p.m. or I will mark you as not participating. Both of those things have to be done. You do one of them, you're not participating. Both of them are required, okay? Let's see, as we scroll through this, the proctored tests, so forth, there's 3 of those. The grading and assignments and so forth. There will be 10 quizzes. There are 11 basically chapters to the textbook. The first one is just kind of an overview. Every chapter after that will have a quiz associated with it. And I take the chapters and generally break them up into either 2 or 3 little mini lectures. When you have viewed all of the lectures that are associated with that chapter, the quiz will open up. So for example, as you see here in the detail here, chapter 6 has 3 lectures. When you've opened up and looked at all 3 of the video lectures, 6A, 6B, and 6C, then the quiz will open, and it's 10 questions generally, sometimes it's 7 or 8, about stuff in those videos. In some cases, chapter 2, there's only 2 pieces. Chapter 7, I think there's only 1 piece, so the quiz is over the whole thing. But you won't even see the quiz, I don't think, as an option on your Go View until you have opened up every one of the videos that goes with that chapter. Now, take notes when you're looking at these videos. Print the PowerPoints and have them beside you as you're watching through this, because I build in little wildcards into my quizzes that you cannot answer if you have not watched the videos. For example, let's say in chapter 6, 6A video, maybe right in the middle of the thing, suddenly I stop talking about the PowerPoint and I hold up a little card that says, question 3, Philadelphia. And then I'll say the answer to question number 3 in the quiz is Philadelphia. When you go to do that quiz, it'll say question number 3. The answer to question number 3 as given in the video lecture was A, Philadelphia, B, ballistic, C, evergreen tree, or D, campus. If you haven't watched that video, all 4 of those could be legitimate answers, but you'll know which one it was. So if you've got the PowerPoint there as you're watching the video, if you write down question 3 Philadelphia in the margin, when you get ready to take that quiz, you'll know that answer. So watch the videos. I talk about them. I explain some things. I give you some examples, but I also give you the wildcards. Typically in those quizzes, the questions that come from the book or from the material of the PowerPoint lectures are worth 1 point and the wildcards are worth 2. So you miss one of the wildcards and you can't get better than an 8. If there's 2 of them, you're limited to a 6 unless you're an extremely good guesser. There are 10 quizzes, 10 points each, But notice that things are weighted. It's not a point-driven final grade. The things are weighted. So after you've taken the 10 quizzes, let's say you've gotten 82 points, you've gotten 82% of the possible points, and that 82 is weighted at 5%, 82 times 0.05, and that stores for the calculation for the final grade. Participation updates 6 different times. You will give me an update on how things are going. 3 of them, numbers 1, 3, and 5, are just going to be simple Word documents that you attach to the assessments. And you just kind of, I'll tell you what to do. Give me a paragraph that tells me how things are going. Or in one case, give me 4 days and times that you're willing to do interviews, things like that. 3 of these are tied to video calls that the class will do together. They are numbers 2, 4, and 6. And for those updates, we'll have a class phone call on Tuesday night and on Wednesday night. You pick either one of them, not both, and you jump in. I don't care which one you come to. You don't even have to tell me which one you're coming to. But you participate in that call. We'll talk about how things are going. You'll share ideas with your classmates. This is what I'm running a problem into. Oh, here's how I got around that. Or here's something that I found works for me. Oh, I think I'll try that. Short little calls, 30 or 45 minutes, Tuesday and Wednesday night. When the call is over, you'll submit a file, in some cases, that just says done. But in other cases, there'll be some sort of a short little writing assignment that's talked about in the Dropbox. Each one of those is worth 10 points. Basically, it's all or nothing. If you're on the call and you submit the file, you're going to get the 10 points. If you submit the file that doesn't involve a call, you're going to get the 10 points. But again, you get 58 out of 60. That's 58 weighted at 0.05. We stick that number aside and add it to the quiz's weighted number. Then you've got the recruitment plan, 100 points. Whichever job you've got, the stock clerk or the delivery driver or the cashier or the whatever, you'll talk about, as I mentioned on the first page of the video here, some of the things, the resources that you would use to recruit for this job and why you would use that source. And then a couple of the sources that you would not use and why. And there's not a rubric that goes with it. I just kind of evaluated, did you kind of do what I asked you to? It's worth 100 points, and that's weighted at 10%. The job description itself is a little bit more complex and in-depth. There's a whole lot of pieces to it, and the grading for that is rubric-based. It really relies both on the quality of the stuff you give me and the completeness of the stuff that you give me, the formatting. I'm going to give you a Word file that's got the basic structure with all the fonts and all the boldings and all the indentations and whatnot. If you will go in, and it's a file that was created several years ago that was done fairly well. Some things about it I didn't like that were missing, whatever, but I'll have a video that kind of talks you through that. If you go in and highlight a particular part of that thing and type in your version for your job, then it ought to look pretty good when you submit it to me. All right, it's worth 100 points, and it's 10% of your overall grade. Interview tools, there's 2 pieces to that. There's a set of questions you're going to ask them, and there's a hiring matrix, and I talked about those in the last section here as we were looking at the objectives. Each one of those is worth 100 points. There's a rubric that attaches to those, the quality of the stuff that you gave me, the completeness of the stuff that you gave me, and the tools together. Let's say that you make an 80 on one and a 90 on one. That's 170 points out of 200. That's 85%. And then that 85 basically gets weighted at 15%. We stick that number aside to add together later. The interviews, when you do your 3 or 4 interviews with business communication students, when they're over, you're going to provide me with some feedback on them. Here's some things that this candidate, each one individually, did well. Here's some things that this candidate individually could do better. And then you're going to say, of the 4, I would have hired George. And here's why. They're also going to give me feedback about you. I'm going to send them a Word document through Radar that they're going to complete and that they're going to submit to their teacher in business communications. And I'll go into a lot of detail on this in another video where I talk about the interviews and the grading. But suffice it to say right now that the combination of their feedback on you and your feedback on them and some miscellaneous thoughts that I have as I observe this process is going to be worth 100 points. But the interviews is the critical part of this whole class. It's about staffing, and it's about interviewing and hiring people. So the interviews is going to be weighted at 35%. A full third of your grade is how well you do on those interviews. If you do pretty well, if you're nice to them, if the questions make sense, you'll probably do well on that. So don't worry about the fact right now that that's 35%. You're going to get a lot of that if you just go through the process the way that I define it for you and lead you along, and you do the interviews reasonably well. You're going to do okay. And then there's 3 exams. You'll see on the next page here the dates that those are available. They are through ProctorU. They're going to be timed at 60 minutes. Generally, they're 50 questions, multiple choice, true, false. One of them only has like 34 questions, so they're 3 points with a little 1 point kicker there at the end. And they're open generally for 4 days, and they include at least 1 weekend day. You'll make your appointment through ProctorU. You'll sign in. You'll go through the verification process, identification process. You'll take the test. The first one, you're allowed to a basic calculator and a scratch pad, because there's a couple of problems where you have to calculate a number. When you're done, you'll throw that piece of paper. You'll destroy it. The second and third exams, no calculators, no scratch pads. On none of them do you use any notes or books or PowerPoints or anything like that, just from memory. Let's see, anything about the exams that you need to know. They're open for 4 days. Try to make an appointment early in the period. If it's opened Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, don't make your appointment for Sunday, because if you have a problem with technology or the rainstorm or something like that, there's no way to recover. Make your appointment early in the process. If you make an appointment for Thursday, something goes wrong, we can reschedule for Friday, so forth. All right, and then 2 bonus points. One at the beginning of the semester, if you put a good profile picture out there, just go to the bonus 1 assignment drop box for instructions on that. And at the end of the semester, you'll see final exam 2 asterisks. It's optional. You don't have to take this final exam. All of the points for your grade come through exams 1, 2, and 3. And the final exam, if you do it, and you do reasonably well, it'll be 1 point added to the final weighted total. When you go back up here, you calculated all these numbers, you applied these weights, you came up with an 88.4. If you've done this profile picture at the beginning, it's 1 more point for an 89.4. If you do this final exam, it's 1 more point for a 90.4. Toward the end of the semester, you'll have a pretty good idea of what your grade is, and you might say, I don't really need that bonus point. It doesn't help me, it doesn't hurt me, so I'm not going to do this final. The final is going to be a drop box where you go in and you just key in, a short paragraph on a number of different questions to give me some feedback on some things. All right. To get an A, you got to have 90 points after all weighting has been done and after any bonus has been added. To get a B, you've got to have 80 points. All right, plagiarism. There are writing assignments. I want them to be original. You're going to go out when you're creating a job description and you're going to research job descriptions online. I don't want you to copy and paste into my document. I want you to think about it, see what makes sense, and then put it in your own words. You're also going to have ProctorU exams. Now, we instituted those things to help cut down on cheating, but people have found a way to cheat. And occasionally we discover people who are cheating. Please make a note here that if you are cheating on one of the written assignments, and I can find out that you are because word for word you match some other resource, I'm going to give you a 0, and we're going to talk about honesty and so forth. If it happens again, you get an F for the class, no questions asked. If you are cheating, please notice this, if it's determined that you've cheated during a ProctorU exam, you'll get a 0 for that exam and an F for the class. I don't care what the reason is. I don't care how well you're doing otherwise. If it can be shown that you cheated on a ProctorU exam, you will get an F for the class. And even if you appeal that to the dean or to the vice president of academic affairs, the fact that it says that in my syllabus, they're going to say, he told you ahead of time. So do these things honestly. Do it using your own work. Don't rely on other people or subversive methods to handle that. Disabilities, just like always, if you have something that justifies giving you extra time on a test, go through the Offices of Disability Services, let me know, and we'll set you up with additional time. Civility, you're going to be doing phone calls with people. Let's be polite. Check in regularly to class to see what's going on, to see if I've posted any notes or announcements out there. Missed work, okay? I really want it turned in according to the deadline. because I grade things in blocks. And if I grade 13 papers because they're turned in, and 2 of you turn it in a week later, after I've gotten out of the mindset of grading that thing, I got to go back and I got to get back in that mindset to grade yours. It's a lot easier on me to do them all at one time. Now, I understand that life gets in the way and you need some delays. Most things you've got enough notice to where the only real reason why you need an extension is because you waited to the very end to start. If you start early, you can get done early, you can submit it on time. Generally speaking, though, things are due by 11:59 on Sunday evening. I may not have updated that on the syllabus. There is on the home page of our class a calendar that tells you when things are due. And it may be that I've set it up to be due at 11 o'clock. I'm not going with the syllabus on that particular item. I'm going with whatever is on the GoView homepage. The quiz itself should tell you when it's absolutely deadline. The assignment should tell you when is the deadline. And I'm going with what's on the GoView. All right, and it's usually going to be 11 o'clock p.m. on whatever night it is. If it's something like 3:45, that's because I didn't change something in the programming. It should be 11, but I don't think it's 11:59. All right, and I apologize because this syllabus does say 11:59, but we're going to understand through the course of this video that the agreement we have is that whatever is set up on GoView is what I'm going to go with. All right, late quizzes. The quizzes are open for 2 days at a time. The tests are open for 4 days at a time. There should not be a need to do either one of those things after the fact. Please check in at least once a day to see what's going on. Here's the Galileo password. Here are important dates if you want to add or drop or withdraw or things like that. Here's the dates that you need to be thinking about. I inserted a piece to my syllabus telling you when big things are due in my class. And then I went to the trouble of creating this little printable calendar. You can put it up on your wall. It'll tell you each day what the focus is. Keep in mind that at 1 o'clock in the morning on Sunday, every one of these chapters, every one of these video lectures, every one of these PowerPoints, and all of the quizzes will be available. I'm suggesting that to break this thing up, you look at one of these things every day, but you could do them all on Sunday if you want to. Again, the quiz will only come open after you've watched that video. The quiz for Chapter 6, Quiz 2, will only come after you've watched all 3 pieces of the Chapter 6 lectures. The Chapter 5 quiz only comes open after you've watched all 3 pieces of the video lectures. Update 1 is due here, update 3 is due here, update 2, the phone calls are Tuesday and Wednesday. The phone calls for update 4 are the 2nd and 3rd. The updates for call 6 are the Tuesday and Wednesday here. Here are the dates of the exams, the dates that the quizzes I think come open, and they're open for 2 days, I believe. Your job description is due here. Your recruitment plan is due here. The schedule of when you're going to do interviews during this block of times is due here. Your questions for your interview and your matrix are due here. And the background part of this is that once you've told me what day and time you're willing to do, days and times that you're willing to do your interviews, 4 of them in all, either Saturday the 7th, the 8th, the 9th, the 10th, or the 11th. So 4 different 1-hour blocks during that 5-day period. I'll create a little table. We will get job descriptions from you. We will give them to the business communication students. They'll create resumes and cover letters. They'll email them to you. And then you will have a one-on-one video conference interview with them that you will record. And in the video that I record about the interview process, I talk about the grading structure. You must record those things so that I can go back in later and watch them. And they need to be at least 30 and preferably 40 or 45 minutes. The final exam comes open on the 23rd, is available through the 24th. That's that optional thing because the exam number 3 ends the day before that. Print this thing out, put it up on your bulletin board on Sunday. Look to see what all PowerPoints are out there, what all video lectures are out there, any assignments that are out there. and work on them early in the week. When you get time to take a test, make your appointment early in the process. The key to this class is early. We do the same amount of stuff in 8 weeks that we normally do in 17 weeks, so it goes really fast, just like most of your other classes. Hopefully that helps you understand a lot of what I'm looking for and answers a lot of your questions about how to get the A or the B that you're hoping for, or the C to check this box off towards graduation. If you have any questions, give me a call. And if I can't answer them on the phone call, or if you think that there needs to be a permanent record or other people might be interested, there should be a Dropbox discussion board out there in classes. I'll ask Dr. Grimes, post a question out there, I'll type out a response, and everybody can see that answer. But let me know if you don't understand things. Otherwise, hopefully all of your questions are answered, and you're looking forward to a very, very strenuous summer semester, but one that will be very, very practical and useful to you as you go out into the real world. Have a great day. Looking forward to interacting with you.